Welcome back to Discipling Marketplace Leaders, Small and Medium-Sized Entrepreneurial Training. And we are in Session 10 now. And Session 10 follows Marketing Part 1 in Session 9. And so we are continuing with marketing today. We'll be looking at several different things, completing the chart that we started last week, as well as looking at customer satisfaction, employee motivation, and the hiring process. So we're glad that you made it back with us. We hope that you were able to look at some of your competition since the last session, and be able to evaluate your industry and the sector that you are in and what is going on in there. And I do hope that you take time at the beginning of the session to also share with each other what you found, what your joys and concerns are in your business at this time, and that you continue to pray together and lift each other up in prayer as well. All right. Today we want to look at, starting off with a devotion again, and today we're going to be looking at Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. And this, of course, is the parable of the three servants, and it's a text that we're probably mostly familiar with. It's a parable that Jesus told, and there are some deep underlying meanings in it. We are going to maybe be looking at it from a different perspective than how you have heard it necessarily in church. So let's read together, starting at verse 14. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, "Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more." The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into utter darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." This is the word of the Lord, and we give thanks to God for it. So this text obviously is talking about multiplication, right? God is not satisfied with us having talents, gifts, finances, resources, whatever. We talk about basically having 3 different talents, right? We have time, we have treasure, and we have talent. And so these are the 3 things that God has given us, the 3 resources that we have. And God expects there not just to be the maintenance of it, but actually an increase that happens in it. And the first thing I want to note is that in verse 15, it says, he divided it in proportion to their abilities. And sometimes we don't want to think that. We want to think that everything needs to be equal. But there are various levels of abilities. Some of us are 1 bag of silver people. Some of us are 2 bags of silver people. Some of us are 5 bags of silver people. And that's okay. We need all of us to be working to the best of our abilities, given what abilities God has given us and that we've had the opportunity to develop. And so I just want to call attention to that not everything is equal. There are some that are given to be leaders and some that are given less in terms of being able to multiply. And what the reasoning is for that or how God determines that is up to God. But we want to recognize that is the case. But then we see that the first servant takes the 5 bags and he doubles it to 5 more. And what is the response of the master? He says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And these are words that we repeat often at funerals, right? That we hope to hear those words when we get to heaven. And then we kind of skip over the next thing. We say, it says, "You have been faithful in handling the small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities." And then let's celebrate together. I would think, what we tend to think is that when you've been faithful and you get a reward, that reward would be that you would be taken care of. Let me give you 5 servants who will meet every one of your needs. But for God, that's not a reward. For God, as we've looked at before, reward is work. And so here we see the reward for this person who now has been given many more responsibilities, and it's something to be celebrated. And we need to that's part of how we need to change our view about work. That Satan has stolen that work is a good thing. Sin has caused us to think that work is a curse. But here we see that the reward is more responsibilities. But then we come to the second person who was given 2 bags and he earned 2 more. Now, earlier we said that there's different levels of abilities, but we see that this person did just as much as the first person. He had 2 bags, and he was able to create 2 more. He doubled it just like the other person did. So having less does not mean that you don't work as hard or in the same way. And so it's something that we also need to remember. We may have less, but we still need to be diligent and faithful with what we've been given. And again, the reward is, "Well done. I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then we come to the last person. And one of the things that I don't often hear about in church is that this is a person, we would view a person as wicked who was given the 1 bag of silver and they spent it and they used it for other things and they had nothing to return. This person actually preserved it, actually cared for it, put it in the ground and made sure that it was kept safe and then returned it. Didn't steal, didn't use it for other purposes, didn't consume it. And still, listen to the response of the master, "You wicked and lazy servant." And then throw this useless servant into utter darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And so God is not expecting us just to preserve or to keep safe or to maintain. We really need to be about multiplying. And that brings us back to Genesis 1:28 again, to be fruitful and multiply. That was what God said when he created us. That is his expectation for us today, that we are fruitful and that we multiply what he has given us. And so this is good news. This is good news that we have not only been given that command, but God blesses that. And what he blesses is also what he enables. And so he enables us to be able to do that. And so we see the idea of multiplication, which is what brings us to marketing today. This text is about multiplication, not about maintenance. Marketing is going to help you multiply. You are doing a business that you are doing because you believe it's going to help people flourish. It's going to help your customer flourish, your community flourish, and your employees flourish. Flourishing is a good thing. You want to multiply that flourishing so that even more people can flourish. So we want to look at these questions. How can a marketing strategy honor God and exalt him as the owner? And then we follow that up with, how can a marketing strategy dishonor God? So I want you to think about ways that people have sought to multiply their business. There's a way that we can do it that will honor God and exalt him as the owner. And there's also a way that it will dishonor God. So I would like for you to pause and to take some time to discuss this text, your thoughts about this text, what it means to be multiplying and not just maintaining. And then how can we have a marketing strategy that honors God in that? Use the gifts and abilities that God has given you in how you do business and in every aspect of your life, even if it requires substantial risk. because it was risky for for the two to use that silver, right? They didn't know. They could have lost. The master could have come back and they said, I tried really hard. I did this with the 2 bags, but there was a flood, or there were locusts, or there was the army worm. And now I only have 1.5. And it could be that the master would have said, you tried very well. You tried hard. Well done. We don't know, but it is risky to do business, and it's risky to do marketing. You're investing in something and you're not sure of what the payoff is going to be. And yet that's using the gifts and the abilities that God has given us. But we need to remember that the reward is more responsibility. It's not putting our feet up on vacation. And so are we willing to be given more responsibility? God will enable you to know what you need to know, to have the people in your life who can walk alongside with you, to be able to manage that more responsibility. And our expectation is that responsibility will be not just on this earth, but in the next earth as well, as we work to develop ourselves towards that. So take some time, pause right now, and then when you're ready, come back and we will continue on in our session. All right, I hope you had a good discussion, and we want to continue by thinking about some key concepts in marketing. One thing that we want to realize is that marketing involves using your brain more than your back. And if there's one thing that I've learned about entrepreneurs and business owners across Africa is that they are very hard workers. They work from sun up to sundown and sometimes beyond. But sometimes I wonder whether we are using our brain as much as our back. And using our brain means that we need to sit down and consider. We need to have management time carved out so that we can think through customers, we can think through processes, we can think through strategies that are going to help our business grow. Sometimes we're so busy working hard, we don't take time to stop and think about the big picture. And that's what marketing will encourage you to do, is to use your brain more than your back. And another way of saying that is to work smarter, not harder. A lot of us can be very, very hard workers, but we're not necessarily working smarter. Working smarter, again, means that we need to take time to learn, to grow, to network with people who are like-minded, to share, and to also have quiet time where you listen to God and what He wants you to do as owner of this business. We can work very, very, very hard and still not be successful. And we have to ask ourselves at that point, did I take the time necessary to listen to the owner? Did I take the time necessary to become wise in how I'm doing this work? Or was I just remaining busy, 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 but not necessarily being productive? The other thing about marketing that we want to think through is that marketing is not about selling. It's about being noticed. Again, we're trying to change our perspective on business. We do business to help people flourish. Our goods and our services help people flourish. We want to be noticed for that. It's not about selling. It's not about getting people's money. It's not about you succeeding. It's about you helping humanity to succeed. It's about you helping the community to succeed. It changes that perspective. When that changes in marketing, that can be significant. I know when somebody's doing marketing and they're just trying to work a sale and they really don't care at all about me or my needs, they're just trying to make me a customer for their own profit. And so we want to change that perspective and to say, this is not about selling. This is about getting noticed because you have something good and positive to offer. People don't like to be sold, but they do love to buy. And that's what they will pick up on is what your motivation is. They don't want to be sold something that they don't need or that you perceive that they need, but they do want to buy something that will help their life be better, that will help their family be better, that will help their community be better and be stronger in the outcome. So marketing means that we need to change this. In order to have God's agenda, we need to be looking at things from God's perspective and keeping in mind what our purpose is for doing business. When we're about selling, when we are about just making the sale, it means that we can compromise our integrity on what we say the product will do or the service will do. It means that we will compromise our integrity on what we are able to do, how quickly we can do it, and what amounts we can do it. and we are not actually doing good for the customer, and we're certainly not being a good witness for God's business at that time. So we need to be thinking and being careful that we are honoring God in how we do our marketing. Just as a reminder, we have covered the foundation. We've begun to put up the walls and install our doors and windows. We're working on the roof. And now we are finishing up. Maybe we can say that we are putting the windows in. We've framed them. We're putting the windows in right now with our second and last week on marketing. And customer service will be at the end of this session. And so in session 9, we began looking at these 3 components of the marketing framework. We looked first at the big picture, the 5 C's. And so some of your homework assignments had to do with, who is my customer? What do I believe and know about my company? What is the context that I find myself in? Who are my collaborators and who are my competitors? And I hope that you were able to do some work on that and establish some ways of knowing those things better, especially your context and your collaborators. Today, we'll spend a good amount of time on your customer. And so we're going to now look at beginning the marketing plan, which is called STP. And STP stands for segmenting, targeting, and positioning. Segmenting, targeting, and positioning. And so we'll go into detail on what those words mean in a few minutes, but then the last part of this marketing framework is what we will do following that, which is carrying out your plan, which is the 4 P's: product, price, place, and promotion. So let's look a little closer at what segmenting, targeting, and positioning is. One of the most important aspects in marketing is to identify the following within your target market. First, their ability to buy. Even if they want your product, can they buy it? Do they have the funds? The second one then is their willingness to buy. Even if they can buy your product, if they do have the funds, do they want it enough to do so? Will they part with their own resources in order to get what you are offering? Third question, number of end users. The end user is the person using your product. You may have a distributor who will get your product to 50 end users. So how many end users do you really have? And we'll do a little exercise that helps us to determine that. Then is the size. Use the population of your area or the statistics that you can find online. What is the total population of the area that you have? And again, when we need to zero in on who of those then have the ability or the willingness to buy, and how many of those in the population are actual end users. So segmenting helps you break the population into groups known as segments in order to identify and best serve your customers. Here are some categories that you can consider as you think about the different segments of the population that you serve. First, their demographics. Gender. Do you serve more men or more women? Age. Are you serving middle-aged people, youth, elderly? Household members. Is there a particular household member that tends to come more? For example, the person who's running the household or the person who is cooking. What about the education level? Are you drawing from a certain segment of the population that is educated, or does it not matter? Is there a specific income level that people seem to be in as shoppers of your business? Maybe a higher income or a middle income or a low income. Maybe it's all across the board. Culture. What is the culture? Is there a certain cultural group that speaks more in terms of what you are doing? Is there something in your business that relates to one culture more so than another? And then ethnicity. What people group? Are you having people come a distance because you are the same people group? Are you ministering or doing business with people in the area who are different ethnicity or people group from yourself? Those are all the different things that we need to consider. Geographic. Where are you located? Are you in the country, rural, town, city, urban, peri-urban? And where are your customers coming from then? So if you are in an urban area, are people just coming from around that area, or are you getting people in from rural or peri-urban? Those are some things that we need to consider as we look at your customer and how best to serve them. Other categories that we can use are psychological categories. What is their attitude of the people needing to shop who are using your business? What are some of their wants and their needs? Maybe they want what you have because it makes them feel good about themselves or makes them feel powerful. What about religious beliefs? Does that factor into your business? Political values, does that factor in? Personality traits, activities, types of brand that they seek. We need to look through the different psychological or in terms of our mind and our thinking, why people shop at your particular business. And then the last one is behaviors, the frequency of purchases, loyalty to certain businesses, repeat purchasing. What do you notice in the behavior of your customers? Do you often see them one time and never see them again, so they're just passing by? Do you have people who are very loyal and anything that you tend to bring in, they believe it's a good thing and they want to come back? How often do they repeat purchase? Are there also behaviors in terms of the frequency of the time of the month or the day of the week? How do the behaviors play out in your customers? And I know this takes time to look at. This is about using your brain more than your back. So often we spend a lot of time trying to get those new customers, and we aren't taking the time to get to know the customers that we already have. So we have an activity in your workbook for a chart of segments where you begin to look at the different categories within segmenting and begin to lay that out for the customers that you have based on the knowledge that you have of your particular customers, the end users, those who are buying from you, and so on. And here's just an example. If you had a business and you were selling musical instruments, you might look and learn and see that you're getting both married and single people. So marital status is not that relevant. Ages are between the 20s and 30s. That's when people tend to be picking up instruments and participating in churches and so on, or bands. You may find that they are mostly educated. Usually those who are not as educated or do not have as much education are not going to have the resource necessarily or the exposure to musical instruments. And so educated with middle class income. They mostly are living in the urban areas. They may lead music in church or in school. They're knowledgeable about music products, and they're seeking high quality musical instruments at affordable prices. And this particular business notices that they come to purchase every 2 to 3 years. You may see them more often for music, for other components that they need to help them in doing their music, whether it's the reeds for different instruments, cleaning agents for different instruments, and so on. But they may end up replacing them every few years. And so that's an activity that we would like you to look at. Before you do that, let's look also at some of these things. And in this, we're working with somebody named Dave Kale, who is a salesperson, has written, I think, about 8 different books on sales. He is a Christian and takes the approach of being a Christian in sales and looking at the customer. And so one thing that you also need to consider as you look at your segments is what kind of business that you have. One type of business is a mass market, and you may have that. If you are a provision shop, you probably have a mass market. So you have lots of customers, typically individuals who buy relatively low-priced items. You don't usually need to know them individually to do business. So retail stores, if you have e-commerce, if you're selling online. But those are people who are coming and buying, sugar and soap. They can get it anywhere. They're passing by. They're not really interested in a relationship. Or you could have a business that's more of a one-on-one, and that would be a business that has fewer customers who are typically, but not always, organizations. You may have some organizations who are buying from you. So whether it's schools, whether it's healthcare organizations, whether it's retail organizations. So they will buy much larger priced items and requires a face-to-face contact to sell. So automobiles, businesses, services, and so on. And so knowing, again, this is a segment of your market that you need to understand. Do you have a mass market? Again, your approach will have to be different with that versus a one-on-one. All right, so I want you to take some time right now and pause this and do some work on the segmenting of your customer base, and do some writing on that in the chart that's provided for you in your manual, and then come back. Okay, next we want to move to the targeting. And once you've identified all the different segments, then you need to target those segments of the population that you think you can most profitably serve. And again, profit is what helps you to be able to flourish so that you can be hiring more people, helping employees to flourish, as well as customers. So decide which segments of the population you can most profitably serve. Targeting helps you attract the most customers, the most loyal customers, or the highest paying customers. Targeting helps you determine whether the number of people who fit in your customer description is growing, shrinking, or staying the same. And so as you look at your segments, you may see that there are some of these that the population is growing, but others it may be shrinking, and we'll take a look at that in our activity. And then decide which of these segments you are serving well, which of these segments you could serve better, and which ones you are not yet serving but could particularly target. So I want you again to remind yourself that this is about using your brain more than your back, working smarter and not harder. Taking time to go through this is going to help you narrow your focus and increase your intensity in order to grow the business. Dave Cale has 2 different principles, and he talks about for sales. Principle number 1 says, while we measure sales and gross profit in terms of money, we make a mistake when we focus on money, on the gross profits and sales. Money is a result of the things we do at a deeper level, the processes, practices, tools, and people who form our system. It's first about customers and second about sales. And if you remember in our last session, we took a quiz and we said that the customer is everything. They pay us, they allow our business to stay open, they tell us when to grow, when to change our designs, and so on. And so what we need to remember in marketing as well is that the processes, practices, tools, and the people who form our system is what brings the money. And so we should not target the money, we need to target those processes, practices, tools, and people. Principle number 2, sales is about helping people get the products and services they want. Money is the measurable outcome of the quality and quantity of the work that we do with people. And so remembering again that this is about what the customer wants. It's not about you making the sale for the business. That's a difficult thing to hold on to. We all start off that way, and we are energized by being able to help people, but it doesn't take long for us to begin to turn inwards for ourselves and our business, and we lose perspective on the customer. So those are 2 important principles to keep in mind. Another principle is the more precisely you define your target market, the easier and more effective everything else is. And so taking the time, work smarter, not harder, taking the time to really define your target market is going to make things more easier and more effective. Another principle, there are layers of appropriateness in describing your target market. And so we want to look at that a little more closely. What is really the target that you can look at in terms of your particular target customer? And so here you see an exercise that I would like for you to do. You can draw something like this. We would call this a target practice, or a bullseye. I don't know what you would call this. But you see, you start at the outer rims. And so this is a diagram for a coffee shop. And at the outer rim, at the broadest circle, is all people who like coffee. Now, not all people who like coffee are going to come to my coffee shop. So I'm going to reduce that and say people who like coffee are my customers, but they probably need to live within a mile radius, because typically people aren't going to go further than that. So there are people who like coffee and live within a mile radius. Now, that is where you look at the population. What is the population within a mile radius of your business? Then we want to narrow that further and say, and who regularly come by your business, whether they're driving or they're walking. Not everybody who lives in the mile radius is coming by your particular coffee shop. Then they narrow that further, because they've decided that people who drink coffee, who go out and actually buy coffee, are typically between the ages of 17 and 70. Usually people not younger than 17 don't drink coffee, and at age 70 maybe they don't go out as much. And then they add this one more thing, and are not parents of large families. Why would that be? Well, usually people with large families don't have a lot of money to be going out and buying coffee. So this is something that you can do for your business. And I would encourage you to stop again, to pause and to go through this and say, what is the broadest level of my target customer? People who like African suits and live within a mile radius and come by regularly and are females and are, so you can narrow that further and then try to come up with a real population. And I think that that's important because what it's going to do is to help you be more realistic and practical in your goals, your economic goals as well. So I'd like for you to pause and do this activity and then come back when you are done. All right, I hope that was helpful for you. Some additional questions to help you make the decision about who to target. As you look at your various segments and you've narrowed it down now, you need to ask these questions. Who needs or wants what you have the most? Which of those segments needs or wants what you have the most? Who can pay for it? Again, we saw in the last example that large families often are not paying for buying coffee and sitting down and having a cup of coffee when they are out. Are there enough of them to make it worth your time and money? And that's something you need to look at. How much competition is out there? How many people are doing the same thing? But also, is there enough customers, given the level of number of people who are doing it, to make it worth your time and your money? Remember, a business does need to make money, otherwise it's a hobby. And so you need to really study and assess that. Why is there a need for your product and your service? Can you economically and accurately identify those customers? Can you gain access to them? How is it that you can gain access to them? If it's everybody that lives in that mile radius, it may be a big amount of people. How will you be able to gain access to them? And what makes you think the competitors have not taken adequate care of them? And that was part of last session, is to look at your competitors. What are they doing well? And what are they missing? Is there a gap that you're able to fill? And so then Dave Kale has laid out how to look at the different segments of your customers. And again, I think this is a very helpful process to help you really narrow down where you could be focusing. And so if you can see this in your book as well, this is towards the end of the session. The principles are laid out there. But the first one is the suspect, all right? And this is how it's defined in your workbook. The suspect is a person or organization that you suspect might one day do business with you, okay? So that's going to be the biggest crowd of people. And then you have a prospect, and a prospect is a person or organization that has a need for what you sell, they can pay for it, and can make the decision to buy it. So now we're talking about they want what you have and they are able to do it. So both financially as well as in terms of responsibility or authority. They are now from a suspect to a prospect. Then we have a customer. A customer is a person or organization who has purchased and paid for something from you. So now you can think through who your suspects are. You can think through who your prospects are. And now you can think about your customers, the people who have actually had that exchange with you. But we want to go even further then. And a client is a person or organization who buys regularly and repeatedly from you. So this is now a customer who has turned into a client. They don't just come once or twice every now and then, but they actually are beginning to develop a relationship with you and with your business. And the last one then is a partner, a person or organization who buys everything that they can from you. When they have a need, you're the first person that they think of. They have your phone number, they know to call you and tell you what their needs are. They know what the good response is going to be. All right, and so you can find this in your book, and I just read through this, so we're going to go through this. But you can see the importance of moving people from the suspect to the prospect to the customer, and then from the client to the partner. And so every level is getting closer and closer in terms of the real relationship. So I'd like for you to pause again and do an activity where you actually name in your workbook a potential suspect that you have, a prospect that you have. Name some customers that you have. Put the names down of certain clients that you have and certain partners. Now, they might not view themselves as a client or a partner, but you know who they are. And that's going to be, again, people that you are going to be targeting to help bring in new people or different people, but also to continue to build people from the customer to the client or partner stage is going to be less costly and more effective in the long run. So pause and do that activity, and then we will come back. Okay, in your book, you also see a chart which under targeting, which allows you to look at which targeting group, which segment your business is good at serving, and which one you probably need to just leave alone. And so this is the layout of that, and the chart is on the next page. But we want to look at the area in the top left quadrant. Your business is good at successfully serving this particular market, and then at the bottom it says the market is large and growing. So those two are the most prime ones that you want. Your business is good at serving this segment, and that segment is large and growing. That's really where you want to pursue. That is really the sweet spot, all right? You could have a market, a segment that your business is good at serving, but then on the next side there, the market is not very promising. And so you need to think carefully about this. You should be able to justify why you would be pursuing them. Let's say it's a market that is actually going down because the newer products are coming in. Then in the second line there on the left, your business isn't very good at serving this market, and yet the market is large and growing. And so this is where, again, you need to think carefully about it. Maybe you can figure out how to be better at serving this particular segment of the population. What can you do to pursue this? And then the last one is your business isn't very good at serving this market, and the market's not very promising. It's a no-brainer. Don't pursue it. So the top one in the middle, the one that you do well at and the market's growing, those are the segments you need to pursue. You need to think carefully about the one where the market isn't promising, even though you're good at serving them, or you're not very good at serving them and the market's promising, and figure out what you should do about those. But then the last one, you can just leave alone. So again, work on that for your own as a piece of homework, is to think through the segments that you've created, and now making some decisions about who you're going to target and how you're going to target them. Last part then of the STP, segmenting, targeting, and positioning, is positioning. Positioning of your business is a combination of the following: the value you offer your customer, how they see your business and your brand, and how you differentiate from your competitors. Okay, so it's the value you offer your customer, how they see your business and your brand, and how you differentiate yourself from your customers. That's what we are doing for positioning. Now we said, we looked at the segments, we know who our target is. Now we need to position ourselves to those targets so that we are able to engage with them and help them be blessed by our business. And in doing that, we want to write a positioning statement. And this also is in your book. A positioning statement is kind of like a mission statement. It's kind of like a statement now that is not just geared for you and the employees to encourage you and to motivate you and help you know what you're doing. This is more like a marketing statement that you would put out for people to see for how you do your business. And this is the formula for writing a position statement. Everything in parentheses, in brackets, is what you would fill in the blank for. So for whatever your target audience is. So for middle-aged women, that actually you don't want to say middle-aged women, but let's say for women of all ages, that, and then you fill in what your customer needs and they care about. So for women of all ages that care about being modern, that are modern and successful, let's say that. Your business and brand, so you would fill in the name of your business or brand, is the best, and then you list what your product or service is that delivers, and then you list the different points of value, points of difference that you have compared to your customers. So this is the formula, and you want to fill in the blanks. Let's look at an example which will make it easier for us to understand what this is. So for style-conscious men and women, okay, so that's the customer, in the greater Nashville area, that is the target audience that this business has chosen. That's a geographical area, who are fashion forward and price conscious. Now, this is what the customers need and care about. They are fashion forward. They want to be fashionable, and they care about price. Adriana's Hair Salon, that's the business name, is the best hair and grooming salon. In what way? And now they're going to list 3 different ways for delivering high quality service in a timely manner in a friendly environment. Okay, so now this is different than your mission statement and your vision statement. This is now what you would want a customer would want to read. The customer doesn't really care about your vision for how the world is going to be different because you exist. They don't really care how you're going to fulfill that. They do care about what you're going to do for them. Okay, so let me read that again. For style-conscious men and women in the greater Nashville area, there's the target audience, who are fashion-forward and price-conscious. Those are the 2 values that the customer cares about. Adriana's Hair Salon, the name of your business, is the best hair and grooming salon. What do you do very well? And then what is the point of difference or the value that they will find for delivering high quality service in a timely manner and in a friendly environment? Okay, so again, one of your homework assignments is to develop your own positioning statement. That brings us to the end of STP. Again, it's a lot of using your brain more than your back. It's about thinking, working smarter, not working harder. And so I hope that you do take the time and take some time to discuss this and pause even right now to work on your positioning statement, just to make sure that you're doing it with others who are hearing the same thing and they can help you think through it. Really doing this with other people is very, very helpful. Doing it by yourself is usually sometimes can be discouraging, it can feel overwhelming, but doing it with other people is important. The last part of the marketing framework is carrying out your plan, which is the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. The 4 Ps help you find ways to carry out your strategic marketing plan. Your product, which includes your packaging, your price, your place, and your promotion. And so we're going to start with the product. The product is what you offer that meets your target customer's needs. It can either be tangible or intangible. Okay, so tangible, of course, are the goods that we buy. Intangible are the services that you provide. You can't really touch the service, but you receive that product in that way. So we want to sell the benefits of how the product or service helps the customers rather than the features. And that certainly has been a change in marketing in the last 30 years. We've moved away from describing the products as much as describing the benefits of the products, because that's what the customer really wants. They don't necessarily want the hammer. They want the hammer that's going to do well at creating whatever project that they are working on. Packaging can be critically important to the customer as it speaks a loud message. And that's something that we need to consider. Packaging, unfortunately, they say that we eat with our eyes first, right? So our eyes will tell us whether something is going to be tasty and whether we want to eat it. It's the same with buying our goods. We buy with our eyes first. If something looks attractive, it's going to catch our attention, catch our eyes, and it also speaks of a message about cleanliness, about quality, about value. And so packaging needs to be considered as something that's pretty important if you want to grow your customer base. So questions to consider regarding your product. What are the core benefits to the customer for purchasing what you offer? What are they really wanting with your product? What are the value added benefits that you offer? What do you add in addition to the core benefits? So, for example, you are selling a mushroom drink that has some core benefits of health. And so people buy that because they want to feel healthier. They want to know that they are taking care of their body. Value added could be that you also do it in different flavors that taste good, that appeal to the tongue as well as to the body. That you offer it in containers that are recyclable, that can be reused, so it's good for the environment. Maybe you deliver. Maybe you have a package that's very appealing, the packaging that you use. So think about that and what the real benefits are of the customer that they're looking for, and what else you offer to augment, to add to that. Second, what do customers look for in the quality? What are they really wanting? Are they wanting reliability? Are they wanting responsiveness from you as the business owner? For example, if you sell a car and then the car has a problem 1 month later, they want The customer wants responsiveness, some sort of assurance or a guarantee that what you are saying is actually true. Are they looking for price? Are they looking at packaging? What is it that they really look for in quality? Then we come to the price, and we spent some time in session 6 talking about price and how to come up with a price. Obviously, the price affects your positioning. A high price is going to get a different position, a different segment of the population than others. Pricing can be compared to that of your competitors, but remember from our discussion that you cannot come up with your price based on your competitors. It has to be based on your own overhead and your own variable costs and fixed costs. But you need to be somewhere in the ballpark and be able to explain the difference if you need to. So we talked about the ties, the 2 different ties that were different prices. That's very legitimate if one is using a wheelbarrow walking around the market and the other person has a shop where they're paying security and air conditioning and so on. So that needs to be considered, though, because price does speak a message as well. The right price depends on the customer's perception of value. So knowing your customer again and what they value, what's important to them. Is it convenience? Is it quality? Is it reliability? And so on. Questions to consider for price. What are customers willing to pay? Okay, when it comes to your product, there probably would be a range. I know with education, right? If you run a school, there are some customers that don't want to pay anything for their child, the end user, to go to school, and some who are willing to pay a whole lot. So what is it that they are looking for? What is the quality difference they are looking for? The primary factor to consider in pricing is looking at the value it presents to your customers. Put yourself in the customer's position. Think about the customer's prices, but do not base your price on that factor alone, as I just said. What is your positioning in terms of price? Are you offering an inexpensive product or a high-quality premium product? Where would you say that you are? Are you on the low end of the price spectrum? Are you on the high end of the price spectrum? Both of those can be fine. You just have to be able to justify it based on the other value additions that you add to those products. Okay, so take some time to think about your price. The next is place. Location is very important in marketing. Good locations are usually in high traffic areas, right? We don't want to be way off somewhere. Although more and more we're moving to having delivery, and so it doesn't matter where you're located. Where more and more we're moving to being web-based or internet-based. So again, it doesn't matter where your location is. But for people who are still out and walking about, being in high traffic areas is important. Distribution is also affected by your location, especially if you're looking at a 1 mile radius. How does distribution work given your location? Are people having to go 2 hours in intense traffic if you live in the capital city? What are those things that you need to consider? So are you located in such a way that it helps your business? And it's difficult to move, but sometimes it's critical to move. To whom do you sell or do you distribute? How does your location affect the various entities that you sell to? So if you are thinking both about your suppliers as well as your customers, as well as those who are maybe distributors for you, you need to think through all of those along the value chain to find the best place to be. The last one then is promotion. Correctly promoting your business is important for its success. How are you going to get the message out there about this great business that you're doing that will help people flourish? Promotion is all about the message. You must decide what your message will be based on the positioning statement that we just talked about. Your message should be short and easily understandable. It should also appeal to your target audience and focus on their needs. And that's what the positioning statement, if you do that, that's what you should be using in your promotion. You can have different promotional offers that you make. Once you know what your message is, consider the value of promotional offers for your business. What examples can you think of that would work for your business? A lot of people do promotional offers like buy 3, get 1 free. Refer a friend, get 10% off your next item, and so on. The media promotion includes whatever avenues you use to reach your target audience. So some examples of media would be print sources, advertisements in magazines, newspapers, posters or flyers, Social media is a growing area of promotion. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, your business website, a city website, or local business association website are important. Getting it out on radio or TV, it's more costly. You reach a broader audience more quickly, but you have to decide whether that's worth the cost. Word of mouth is critical, and referral programs are critical. So getting your current customers engaged to bring in other people, making them into clients and partners, and that the value addition that can happen with that is very important. And then, of course, the personal selling that you do on a day-to-day basis as you talk to people and as your employees talk to people. So questions to consider: what media have you been using for your business? Are there other media that you have used or are interested in using? What media do your target customers use? And that's also very important. If all of your customers are on WhatsApp or on Facebook, how can you get your business to do some promotional messages through that? But then, how much money can you spend on advertising based on your budget? What have you put in your budget for media, for marketing? Again, as we said with our text from Matthew, there's a risk in this. You may not get the response that you want, but you may need to try different things in order to see what is the most effective. Questions to consider: is your product or service an expensive one that requires a lot of trust and convincing? And again, more of those one-on-one businesses, those higher ticket items are going to be ones where you need to have a lot of trust or convincing. If you have a mass market, not so much. You don't have to do as much trust or convincing. Sugar is sugar. I typically trust sugar to be sugar, so I don't need to be convinced to buy from a shop that's on my way. Next question: what marketing methods have worked for you and your competitors in the past and which have failed? What can you learn? What did you learn from your competition? What have you seen for yourself, and what can you do moving forward? So I want you to do this activity, looking at your promotional strategy. What do I want to accomplish? What is my goal? Do I want to expand is my primary goal to have people move from customers to clients to partners? Is it to target a certain segment and to get new customers with that? What is it that I want to accomplish? How much can I spend per month for promotion? What is realistic that I spend? What types of media should I use? How frequently should I advertise based on my budget and customer buying patterns? So take some time, and I'd like for you to pause to talk about this. Also, these two questions: if I had to represent my business with one word, what would it be? What would be the one word that I want to represent my business? And the next one: how can I measure the effectiveness of my advertisements? A lot of times people will spend money on radio and on television or on flyers, and they don't really get any response from it. And so that's when we have to evaluate, is that a worthwhile media for us, or is there something else that we need to find with that? So I'd like for you to do that, to pause at this time and to go through the 4 Ps. There is different segments in your book where you can write down what your thoughts are regarding the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. And when you are done, we will come back and continue on. All right, welcome back. Again, hope we had some good discussion. We want to look at some helpful rules as we think about marketing in our business before we go into our customer satisfaction portion. So as we look at that, the first rule is the rule of the ruler. You cannot delegate the passion and the vision that you have. Unfortunately, if you are the founder of the business, if you're the one who have started it, it's very difficult to delegate that passion. And so that passion is yours. And that means that while we may be very busy and we may be doing many different things relating to the company, marketing is where we are interacting with the customer and trying to understand the customer, the needs of the customer. And that passion that comes from you is going to have to also be involved in marketing to some degree. So you can hire somebody to do your marketing for you, but our encouragement is that you stay involved in some way because you are the one that brings the passion to help people flourish to the table. The next helpful rule is the 10-30-60 energy rule, and that is where we need to be applying our energy. And so that adds up to 100% of our energy in terms of putting it towards the business and marketing specifically. And the recommendation is that you use only 10% of your marketing energy in talking to everyone in your marketing universe. Okay, so blasting things on radio or TV or at big levels, only 10%. 30% to convince people to become your customers. So 30% of your marketing time should be with new people, people that you want to convince, and those different segments that we talked about, the ones you want to target to become customers, only 30% of your time. But 60% of your energy should be going to current customers to help them to become clients, to help them to become partners, and eventually they will begin bringing new customers to you. And so it's the cheapest and it's the best use of your energy to work with your current customers. The third rule that we want to look at is the 1-10-100 expense rule, and this is in terms of US dollars. It costs you only $1 to communicate with your staff, and when you communicate with your staff about how to be good to your customers, about how you are imagining that you are helping customers to flourish, about what your goals are and intentions are with the business, that is equivalent to $10 communicating with the trade. So if you try to advertise with all those who are doing the similar things as you within chicken or poultry, you can spend $10 on it, but the equivalent, you get the equivalent effects as if you just spent $1 on your staff, and that is equivalent to $100 communicating with customers. So our message in this is that communicating with your employees is the cheapest, and it will get you the best return when they fully understand and fully buy into what you are doing. Otherwise, you can spend $100 trying to get new customers, but if your employees are not understanding how important customers are, if they're not understanding what the goal is for your business, if they see only the sale as the end goal, the profit as the end goal, it's going to sabotage the business. So something also to keep in mind. So I want to move now to customer satisfaction. And so we know, and we've talked about the fact that customers are very important to our business. And customer satisfaction is something that I have found over and over again. People believe that they do very well. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know, meaning we may think that we're doing very well, but maybe we haven't explored all the best ways to help our customers to be satisfied. And so customer satisfaction is a key ingredient in the success or the failure of a business. Customer satisfaction is important because running a business without customers is impossible. As we looked at in our first session of marketing, we acknowledged that the customer is everything. Satisfied customers generate repeat sales, increased sales, and more customers. In other words, satisfied customers mean satisfied business owners. And as I've said before, most of the time we start our business with that desire. We're meeting a need. It gives us joy. But over time, we begin to lose sight of the customer and we begin to focus on profit and what the business is doing for us. And that is where, when we have our eyes focused on Jesus, on the purpose for doing business, from God's perspective to help people to flourish, it will help us also care for the customer in a way that will also allow us to be satisfied by the business. There was a study that was done that showed why customers stopped shopping from a particular business, and the following reasons were discovered. 1% of the customers died. That's why they stopped shopping at your business. Well, there's not a lot you can do about that. 3% of the customers moved away. That's why they stopped shopping. Now, this was done on average. 5% formed other interests, so they no longer were interested in what it was that you were selling. Only 9% left a business for competitive reasons. And so sometimes we blame competition a lot more, but in general, about 9%, you lose about 9% of customers to competition. 14% due to product dissatisfaction. So 14% will leave because they're not really happy with what you sold them. It wasn't the quality or the standard or the response in terms of any problems that they had was not what they wanted. But this is why this slide is on here. 68% left a business because someone was rude, indifferent, or discourteous to them. That's huge. If we understood that more than half of the customers that we lose for a simple thing, such as being rude or being indifferent or being discourteous, we can also see that it's very easy to fix those things. A smile doesn't cost anything. So smiling, teaching your employees to be kind, those are important things that we need to help our employees know so that we don't lose customers for such a simple reason. Common mistakes in customer satisfaction: thinking that it begins when a customer asks a question. It begins way before that. Thinking that it's only about price. Customer satisfaction is not only about price. That's one of the things that customers care about, but not everything. Thinking it's only about the way the shop looks. Again, relationships go a lot deeper than that, and rather than just the external about how it looks. Now, how it looks is important, but it's not the only thing. Forgetting that customer satisfaction begins when a customer enters the shop, and it doesn't end until they have left. And actually, it goes beyond that. It continues beyond when they have left, when they take the product home and they begin to use it. And so customer service is not just when the customer is in front of you. It is the time when they are interacting with your product. And last, forgetting that there is most likely another shop selling the same thing right down the street. And that's a mistake that we make. People have many choices. There is competition. Competition is a good thing. Competition keeps us on our toes to do better and to try harder and to serve better so that we can actually help people flourish. We don't create monopolies that take advantage of people. So what makes up customer satisfaction? 4 parts: a reliable product or service. Okay, that's critical. The product at the right affordable price. It's also very important. A pleasant environment to shop. That's important. And then help from employees who give the right amount of attention. We don't want employees who are discourteous or rude. We also don't want employees who smother the customer as well, making them feel like they are not trusted, that we need to watch every move. We need the right amount of help when we are looking at customers. So developing helpful employees toward customer satisfaction can create loyal customers. A loyal customer is someone who purchases goods or services from the same business repeatedly. Okay, in the earlier when we were talking, we said that a customer who becomes a client is somebody who is buying things more than once on a regular basis. And a loyal customer also is someone who buys different kinds of goods and services from the same company. So again, moving from the customer to the client to the partner, anything that they can get from you, they want from you because they trust you. Developing helpful employees towards customer satisfaction can create loyal customers. Continuing on with the list, a loyal customer is someone who tells others to shop at that business. So they encourage, not because they're getting paid to, not because they're part of your marketing team, but just because they're satisfied. They encourage others. A loyal customer is someone who's not easily lured away by cost-cutting competitors. Okay? They know that even if the price is lower somewhere else, they can't really trust the quality or the follow-through. They have a loyalty to you, even if they understand that your price is a little bit higher because of A, B, and C, what you're doing in your business. Loyal customer is someone who knows the policies of the business and what to expect if they encounter a problem with a purchase. And problems happen, sometimes problems outside of our control. Customers need to know that they can trust you to do what is right if that happens. One of my favorite sayings is that satisfied customers tell 3 friends, angry customers tell 3,000. And that's just a reality. We love to tell the bad stories. If you are on WhatsApp or you are on Facebook, you see often people like to tell the bad stories of, can you believe that this happened to me? And we don't often tell the good stories because we expect to be treated well. And so we need to keep that in mind. We may be frustrated with a customer. We may be unhappy even with their behavior, but we need to remember that our response can also have a direct impact on the business, because angry customers will tell 3,000 people and they will turn the story their way in a way that's not flattering for you and away from the truth, but people who weren't there aren't going to be able to assess what really happened. Why are loyal customers so important to your business? Well, acquiring a new customer costs a business about 10% more than keeping a current customer happy. And so remember that customers will bring in other customers. It costs more to try to get the new one than it does to keep the current ones happy. So we need to focus on those current customers. Preventing lost customers can dramatically improve a business's profit and growth. For example, simply by reducing the number of lost customers by half, you can double your growth. And that takes a little bit of time to think through that. But the reality is that when you keep your customers, you will also see better profit and growth. And when you can turn those customers into clients and partners, you will see even more growth and they will bring in more people. And so it's critically important. On average, 1/5 of a business's customers account for 4/5 of that company's products. That's because those are the customers who keep coming back, who understand the loyalty and continue to buy as many products as they can. And when you look at that, when you piece it apart, some of those customers are generating a lot of the profit for your business, even though it doesn't maybe feel that way. But when you look at the statistics, that's often what it is. So you need to evaluate your own business. Give the customers more than what they expect. Give the customers more than what they expect. They expect a good product. What you can do is give them a relationship that shows a caring, a desire to help them flourish. Build customer loyalty and provide true customer service. 80% of shoppers believe employees don't care about their business. And so one of the things that we believe that is critical for customer satisfaction is employee training. When your employees have not been trained in customer satisfaction and reminded of it, you will lose customers. And so 80% of shoppers believe that employees don't care. And that comes across. And so one of the things we suggest is you have hidden shoppers that come in or secret shoppers. And that's somebody that you know that your employees maybe don't know. They come in and when you're gone, and to see how the employees are when the owner is not around. That's an important thing to measure. Not just for the sake of firing or consequences, but how to teach and how to lead your employees so that they can understand customer satisfaction. All employees should have customer service as part of their job description. Doesn't matter if they are the guard, if they are the custodian, they need to be trained and reminded regularly that customer service is number one on their priority list. They need to all be ready and prepared to help the customers to have a good experience, regardless of their position. Eliminate unprofessional behavior by employees, talking on the phone, spending all their time, with their face buried in their phone, sleeping on the job, all of these things that cause us to not be focused on the customer is going to deter customers from coming back. Give the customers what they want and what they need. This is a great little picture of the power of word of mouth. And so you can see here that there is a beverage company, almost looks like Pepsi, that has spent a lot of money on advertising. So on all the buildings around, they have put the picture of their drink. On the vehicle, you can see that there's a picture of their drink. They even have a person wearing a costume of the drink. Spent a lot of money on the marketing. And yet when you look at the bottom part of the picture, you see two women who are sitting at a restaurant table. And the waiter has come and said, "What would you like to drink?" And the one woman who arrived later than the first woman says, "I'll have what she's having." Meaning that it doesn't matter how much they spent on all the marketing that you can see around this other company. This friend wanted what her friend is drinking, which is clearly a different bottle. It's a different beverage. And that is the power of the word of mouth. I will trust a friend before I trust somebody trying to sell me something. If my friend says it's good, then I will take the risk to try it. But if somebody is just trying to sell me something, I'm not going to trust their motivation that they really care about me. So we need to remember the power of the word of mouth. So to do this, we need to train all employees well to achieve good customer service and experience. We need to develop clear guidelines regarding customer experience that all employees, including yourself, must follow. Implement these guidelines through mandatory customer service training for all employees. And customer service training isn't something you do at the beginning when they're hired and then you don't do it again. It should be done almost quarterly, where you have a time where you just even role play. And role playing is fun, being a difficult customer, being a good customer, and all the different things that you could do, having somebody act it out and then critiquing. But making sure that that is constantly before employees, that they understand that this company, this business is in existence to help people flourish. And those that are the ones flourishing are the customers, and our desire is to serve them. Second, add customer service to all the job descriptions so that each employee feels the ownership of this responsibility as much as any other employee. Too many times I've been in a place where I ask an employee about something in a different area and they say, that's not my department. They should be able to answer any question at any time and be able to walk the person over to the one that can help them if they can't help with that exact question. And that should be the guide for every person, understanding that the customer is number one. Employees should be trained. They should be and emphasize that customer service is not started by the customer. Customers should be greeted by employees as soon as they enter the shop and should be asked if they need assistance. You don't wait for the customer to make the first move. You make the first move. Greet them. Learn their names if you can. Learn things about them if you can. And ask them if they need assistance. If they don't, then don't get in their way. You don't need to crowd them, but you need to offer and avail yourself. Train all the employees in these as well, following the guidelines. Correct employees when they are not displaying good customer service and provide clear direction on ways to improve. So when you teach and train them, then you need to be able to correct them when you're not seeing it happen. Provide clear direction on what they could be doing better. Again, having those regular meetings is going to be helpful. It's not just going to be a negative interaction when you see something negative, but a chance for everybody to talk together about it. There's nothing wrong with friendliness among employees, but to be professional towards customers, employers need to draw the line when that friendliness interferes with customer service. So being friendly is fine, but remember that you are a professional, that all employees are professionals, and they need to respond as such to the customers. As I said earlier, sending in secret shoppers who can report on their experience with employees and any problems that occur when the owner or manager is not present. You as the owner or manager are going to be very natural at customer service because you care very much about the business and about its success as well as for the customers. Your employees may be working for a paycheck. They may be working just to get their hours done so that they can go home and do what they really want to do. And so sending in secret shoppers is going to show you the opportunities for training that you have for bettering their relationships and also understanding who is actually going to be good for your business and who might be harmful. Sometimes it takes, we have an employee who can do a lot of harm before we catch on to the fact that they are doing things that are not good for the customers. And by that time, they may have angered some who are now telling 3,000 people. So the hiring process is very important to achieve your marketing. And I know this sounds like it's a HR, a human resources issue, but really, if you want marketing to be successful, you need to have good employees. And if you want good employees, you need to have a good hiring process. So hire the right employees for your business. Employers should shop for employees who have a sincere interest in working with people. Most businesses, that's who your customers are. You need to be able to work with people. The best businesses learned a long time ago that the employees they hire will largely determine their success. You can't do everything. You can't be everywhere. Having the right people work alongside with you is going to be critically important. They therefore take a long time to hire people and are very careful in both interviewing and in checking references. And that would be what we would suggest for any position you want to hire. Even if you have somebody internal or you have a family member or a church member, you still post the position You go through the formal role of interviewing and in checking references. What that does is it puts the person on notice, even if you know them, that there's a difference between a personal relationship outside of this work and working for this business, and me as the manager and God as the owner. So you need to take your time and go through the process, regardless of who it is, to make sure that you're truly doing the business justice by hiring the right person. The business should not be doing favors to people by giving them a job that they're not ready for or prepared for. You need to be protecting of the business. Once a person has been hired, if that new employee has poor behavior with customers or coworkers, he or she can cause a great deal of harm before being let go. Respond appropriately to issues when they occur in order to prevent the problem from growing. A lot of us don't like conflict, so when we have a problem, we try to ignore it for a while, and then finally it may blow up and the person is hired. We want to give people the chance to learn. They need to see you as the leader with their best interests at heart, as well as the customer. And so making sure that you're giving feedback and training and making them part of the team and dealing with issues as they occur is critically important, not waiting until the next staff meeting. Questions to answer before you hire someone. First one that we all ask is, are they able to do the job? And often we stop after that question, and that relates to the training, to the experience, to the things that show up on a CV or on a resume. Are they able to do the job? But somebody might be able to do the job and still not be willing to do a good job. And so we might have to say that they are able to do the job, but also that they are willing to do a good job. And this relates to their character, to their behavior, to their motivation, and to their personality. The CV shows us that they are able to do the job, but the references tell us whether they are willing to do a good job. You learn about the person's character, their behavior, their motivation, and their personality, and that's critical. I often say I can teach people how to do the job. I can teach about I can give trainings and teach about the practical things, but I can't teach someone to be willing to do a good job. I can't change their character, their behavior, or their motivation. And so that's a very critical and important question. And the last one is, are they manageable once on the job? How willing is this person to accept direction? Is this person teachable? How do they respond to being told no? How do they deal with conflicts or disagreements? So I may be able to do the job. I may be willing to do the job, but am I manageable? Am I able to receive direction? If you tell me no, am I able to hear that? Do I have a humble heart and a humble spirit? And this is the question that we often need to ask, especially if we're hiring somebody who's a family member or a church member or the son of a friend. People who have a relationship tend to want to use that to their advantage or believe that it might be enough to grant them some mercy as it relates to their performance. And so we need to know that not only are they able and willing, but that they are manageable, that they understand very clearly that a personal relationship is outside the business, but inside the business, we are going to do what's best for the business, not what's best for an individual who may well take the business down if we're not very careful. So employees, we need to be hiring the right person. The best businesses learned a long time ago that the people they select will largely determine their success. They therefore take a long time to hire people and are very careful in interviewing and in checking references. Once a person is hired, that if the hiree is a wrong person, he or she can cause a great deal of harm before being let go. And so just to reinforce again that this is critically important for customer satisfaction. Common myths about employee motivation. First myth, something that's not really true that we believe, is that I can motivate people. You can't motivate people. Motivation is an internal process. You can set an environment where people can become motivated, but you are personally not able to motivate people. It has to come internally. Myth number 2, money is a good motivator. Money is not, unfortunately, a good motivator. People think if I was paid more, I would be able to work harder. The motivation of money lasts for a very short-term period. What motivates people is something much deeper, being involved in something greater than themselves. But money usually is a short-term motivator, not a long-term. Myth number 3, fear is a very good motivator. So we have some bosses who love to yell at their employees, who love to instill fear and threaten. That again, it will go just for a short period of time, and after a while, those threats begin to be ignored, especially if they're not followed through with, and we begin to not be impacted by what the person is doing. Again, fear is not a good motivator. Proper procedure in terms of loving our neighbor, but also holding them accountable, challenge and support is very important. Myth number 4, I know what motivates me, so I know what motivates my employees. Not true. What motivates you is your internal process through how God has made you and given you gifts and talents. Other people have different motivations. Most of us are motivated, though, by being involved in something bigger than ourselves, but what that means, it can be very different from one person to the next. And so what are some things that do motivate, and what have you experienced? I'd like you to pause right now and to talk a little bit about your experience with employees, both with hiring, with training, with teaching about customer satisfaction, but also about what is it that motivates employees to do well, and what can we do as business owners to help them to do better. So take a few minutes and have that conversation, and then we will come back. Okay, we're about to wrap up this session, but we want to look up then about some common myths. I'm not sure what you came up with we were talking about employee motivation yet. The basic principles about employee motivation is that motivating employees starts with motivating yourself. When you act motivated, when you come to the job and you are energized and you are talking about people flourishing and talking about how your business is going to make a difference, it begins to motivate employees. The key to supporting the motivation of your employees is understanding what motivates each of them, having conversations with them, getting to know them, what their dreams and their desires are, and how that can be met even through your business. Is critical. Understanding what it is that they are looking for, it can be very helpful to that. Recognize that supporting employee motivation is a process and not a task. It's not something that you can do and then check off your list and go to the next thing. Employees change, and you need to continue to learn and grow with them to really understand. Once a year conversation about this is not often enough. And remember that we said that from God's perspective, helping our customer flourish, but also our employee flourish is critical. Helping them feel fulfilled is going to help them also stay with you and be loyal to you. Support employee motivation by using organizational systems, policies and procedures that can be put in place. Don't just count on good intentions. And so having an employee system that actually outlines what the steps are for people to grow, to learn, to have opportunities for training, for travel, for all different things can also be very helpful for the employee. And as a reminder, if you aren't taking care of your customers, your competition will. They will find other options. And so this is critically important that we learn how to do this. At the end of the session, we have a few homework assignments for you to look at. The first is the product and service description worksheet. Using the principles you learned regarding the first P, or product, evaluate your current product service that your business offers. So you will find that in this session in the homework portion. A marketing review worksheet. Apply the principles you've learned in the marketing sessions to your own business to help you evaluate your current strategy and to develop your new marketing strategy. And the last marketing tactics worksheet, identify and outline specific objectives to accomplish what would help your business grow, including a tactical plan to accomplish the objectives and a cost and financing plan to implement the tactical plan. So take a look at the end of this section and to see the homework that is listed there. And again, if you can work together in small groups, that can be very helpful for you. But we hope that this session helps you to get an idea of how to establish a marketing plan for your business, and that you'll be able to help your business grow and help more people flourish through doing that. Our next session, we will be looking at management, and so we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.